Mac guys here on Birds 365. For some reason, we haven't been able to work around Jeff Kerr. Sandra tells me he should be here shortly. All right, and we'll punch him up when he does jump in. We did say we would get to it, so this is as good a point as any. What happened yesterday on the sideline during the game? Big Dom getting tossed. If you had said that, hey Tom, you plan on getting tossed this year? When we were standing there and he came by at the Eagles preseason practice, you and I were together. What do you think he would have said? Toss? Why the hell would I get tossed? Oh yeah, he got tossed from a National Football League game yesterday, and we can go through the entire thing, how he came down, what happened. But I think keeping it on the field, the most important thing. That should have been something that lifted the Eagles. Maybe not the victory, because they were just blatantly outplayed yesterday, and the 49ers showed they have a better roster as of right now. But I thought at least that was an area, okay, now maybe the crowd gets into it. Maybe the players get pumped up because their security guy, who's had no impact, the other team gets one of their best players thrown out. I thought that could be a turning point part of the game. It turned out to be a big nothing burger. Is that shame on the Eagles, Johnny Mac?
Yeah, shame on the Eagles defense, because they did score. It was a 21-6 game when the kerfuffle happens. And obviously, as you mentioned, it was a good trade-off for the Eagles because the 49ers lose Drake Greenlaw, is a very good player. And everybody loves Dom. You were there for a short window. You see all of us. We love Dom.
Everybody does.
Yeah. But yeah, you can't do that. And he rightfully got kicked out of the game, but it didn't, hurt the Eagles from a football perspective. We'll see if he gets suspended. The NFL might have something to say about it, but they scored. They came out and they scored. That was the drive where they kept going, and they had to use two tush pushes, which in theory, they were at the 2-yard line. They tush pushed to the 1, and they tush pushed again, and everybody goes nuts when they do that, and they scored, and they're right back in the game. It's a one-score game at that point.
Yep.
21-6. It became they weren't going to chase points that early, which I agreed with, so it was 21-13. And then bang. And even when they came out, that was the second sack of the game. Fletcher Cox got Brock Purdy for a small loss. It was only about 2 yards or whatever. So it was 2nd and 12. And then I'm trying to look it up. It was McCaffrey for 5 yards. So you get in 3rd and 7, which is kind of manageable. They get it to Ayuk wide open because Slay's playing in the parking lots for 10 yards. And then Christian McCaffrey again off left end, right behind Trent Williams, phenomenal player. I can't say enough good things, but Trent Williams, 16 yards, and then bang, Deebo Samuel, bubble screen, 48 yards, touchdown. That freaking back 7, man. That's why there's plenty to criticize, and I'm sure we'll get it in all this week in the offense, and everybody hates Brian Johnson. They got to run the football, but you're right back in the game, and that quickly. And you even have them in a hole after first down. You even have them in a hole, the 2nd and long, and even third. That's where you don't want to be.
7 is not bad.
3rd and 7 is you don't want to be there if you're an offense. You want to be 3rd and 5 or lower.
Yep.
They can't get off the field. 2 plays later, yeah, I mean, and that was quick. That was a quick drive. Let's see, 5 plays, 257, and obviously the big play from Deebo Samuel. So, and that, and in a lot of ways, and I had that in my notes right here. That was the game coming off that they made it a 1-score game. And you're saying, complimentary football. I talked to Jalen Hurts about complimentary football. Obviously, he wasn't going to bury the defense. But to me, that was the game. That drive was the game. The Deebo Samuel 48-yard touchdown. Defense came up small, Jody.
Yeah, they did. And it just continued to get worse from there on in. It was like They were bad, and then they were deflated, and they had nothing left in the tank. And yes, the linebackers yesterday were just flat out poor. Christian Ellis made a big play in one of those first two series, and you're like, "Ooh, this might be okay." And then they had to play the last three quarters, and that was a problem. Christian Ellis is a problem. Nicholas Morrow is a problem. Their linebackers right now are a major problem. Shaq Leonard's agent is going cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. Can we talk about my guy coming in here and helping your linebacker core, Howie Roseman? He wants to. He likes Nick. He's got a relationship with Nick. Nick keeps blowing up his phone, and he feels bad that he can't answer him every single time because Nick calls him twice an hour, every hour. But here's the cost. Here's what it's going to be. Shaq wants to get paid. Maybe they even talk about a multi-year deal with the Eagles. And number one, think about paying the premium, because I'll make it into a question. If Shaq Leonard is going to decide on where he can best have success and get a ring, would it be Philadelphia or would it be Dallas? If those are the two teams that are its top pursuers.
I think it should still be Philadelphia, but yesterday's game might have them rethinking. I will say that. But players are just
I would say yesterday's game bolsters the Eagles' chances, because what, they're going to play Nicholas Morrow over me? Of course I'm going to play. As soon as I show up there, I'm playing every snap. The Cowboys can't offer me any more snaps because I'm going to play every snap for the Eagles going forward. They were so bad. It adds to the possibility of him coming here to Philadelphia, but it also adds to the cost it's going to be. If you want him, you're going to have to pay for him, Howie.
Well, I think a lot of Shaq Leonard talk is based on what Shaq Leonard was and not what Shaq Leonard is. I just criticize Howie Roseman for the devaluation in the linebacker position. The only thing I would criticize him more for, if he would bend over backwards and give Shaq Leonard a bunch of money or a multi-year contract, because that to me is a complete panic move. That's not who this guy is at this stage of his career. This is a stopgap, a Band-Aid. If you get him, great. He's better than what you have. If you don't get him, you hope Zach Cunningham gets healthy as quickly as possible, and Nick Morrow gets back to playing like Nick Morrow played at the first 11 games of the season before he saw Christian McCaffrey and company. Nick had played well, so I do think there's an overreaction, Monday aspect of it, that they played a really poor game, so you can't just throw the baby out with the bathwater and say, "Oh, we got to give Shaq Leonard a bunch of money and an extra year." I mean, no. If you can get him, you get him. Prorated deal. Throw him in there because he's better than Christian Ellis.
But will it be fair if Shaq Leonard signs with the Cowboys and we get the details of the deal? Would it not be fair to go, yeah, the Eagles should have paid that? If it was a toss-up between the two, the Cowboys, I don't think the Cowboys are going to give him $10 million for 5 games either. Nobody is. He's Shaq Leonard part 2, not part 1. So the money's going to be what the money's going to be. Is it going to be fair after the fact to evaluate, the Eagles should have matched or slightly gone above?
Well, yeah, I imagine it's going to be pretty much the same on both sides. He's pretty much deciding where he wants to play, from my perspective. So
choosing the Cowboys, why do you think he would?
A bunch of reasons. I said it last week. Maybe he likes the weather. Maybe he likes the taxes. Maybe he likes the facility. Maybe he likes the Cowboys. Maybe he was a Cowboys fan when he was young. I have no idea. There's a bunch of reasons. When I start with Texas teams,
because I'd like to know his opinion on it. It's why he decided to do that. Because if he does, he's going to be just add another one to the list of persona non gratis here in Philadelphia.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of pro athletes that choose Florida and Texas just for the taxes. I mean, there's a lot of pro athletes who do that. The Cowboys have, if not the best facility in the NFL, the second best, or maybe the third best. Miami's really good, and New Minnesota's is really good. They have great facilities. The Eagles are kind of outdated, to be honest. There's weather, as you mentioned, in Northeast. Now he's played in Indianapolis. Maybe he's sick of it. Maybe I'm saying all these things. From my perspective, he has a good relationship with Nick, supposedly, and I thought that would be the tipping point. But that individuals, everybody thinks differently. And I do not think he's going to Dallas because Dallas is going to give him a better contract. And we'll see. We'll see how things shake out. I think he's going to get basically the same from each team, and he's just deciding where he wants to play.
Yeah, we won't know that unless he directly answers that question. We'll know what the money is. We get the details on the deal, but Shaq Leonard.
Well, well, you'll be able to know by the contract. If the Cowboys give him like $5 million, well, the Eagles weren't going there. If it's more reasonable, you kind of know. But yeah, you're never going to be 100%.
Well, unless he passes up. He's asked the question directly, and he says, "Yeah, it was because of taxes. Yeah, it was because the Cowboys put an extra $500,000 on the table." He may or may not cop to it, but I'd like to know this question. Eagles still have money under the salary cap for this year. If you don't use it, you can roll it over to next year. So there's an advantage to finishing the season with some salary cap wiggle room. But they're still an all-in team this year. And is there any other place where you would spend this year's salary cap money other than upgrading linebacker at this point for the 2023 Philadelphia Eagles?
Well, in the short term, but they need help at linebacker. There's no doubt about it. And they've addressed some of the other positions, safety with Kevin Byard trade. So probably not at this particular time because, N'Kobe's pretty much done for the season. Zach's hurt, but Zach's going to be back. I think people forget about that. It's not like he's done for the year. And he's played pretty well. I thought they missed his physicality in yesterday's game. He's been a very physical player. And I do think, I criticize the Eagles for, and to be honest, and I've said it on the show a couple times, they seem to be waiting for the other shoe to drop with Nicholas Morrow. They didn't believe in him. Maybe they were right because he played, the shoe dropped, or possibly he had a bad game and he's going to bounce back and play like he played for the first, which is the larger sample size, where he was pretty good. Not great, but pretty good.
Yep.
So I don't think you need to panic and say that's Nicholas Morrow. I think he had a really bad game against a really good team. And I don't think that's going to be consistent moving forward. So I don't think it's as necessary or panic driven as most people think. Because I don't know how much better Shaq Leonard right now is than Nicholas Morrow. If you go to where, remember, he got benched by Indianapolis, and he is, a staple there. Remember, not only as a formerly great player before the back problems, but he was a big part of the community. He was one of their most popular players. All that stuff factors in that he doesn't have here, and they still cut him. So, he was, I'm trying to look it up really quick. The PFF had 79 graded linebackers. He was 61 of 79. And
that's not good. The only question is he better than what the Eagles have? Is it an upgrade? And if it's an upgrade, you need to put a valuation on it. Is it worth paying it or not? And
well, that's what I'm saying. Is he better than Nicholas Morrow? Well, Nicholas Morrow had been playing better than him this season until yesterday. I can say that confidently. Did he play? He played like crap. I mean, I'm trying to look up. Nick was number 19 coming into that game. Number 19 in the entire league coming into that game. Shaq was 61. So I don't know. I don't know if it's that big of an upgrade, to be honest.
Yeah, not that big. In my opinion, it's an upgrade. And I think at this stage of the season, coming off your worst loss all year long and not even close, if you've got the chance to upgrade, whatever that upgrade is, we're not talking about Fred Warner here. We're talking about Shaq Leonard Part 2, which is not great.
Well, and my more point is, Jody, is he's better than Christian Ellis. So there's your upgrade. If you're forced to play with Zach Cunningham,
you believe Cunningham's coming back next week?
I don't know if he is. He's got a hamstring. Hamstrings can go a couple, they can go a negative way. Looks like Jeff Kerr's having computer problems. So we might not get Jeff because he can't connect for some reason. But yeah, I don't think Zach's going to be ready next week. Yeah,
and that adds to the necessity of a potential upgrade.
Well, that's why I said even if Nick Morrow goes back to playing the way he's playing, even when Zach Cunningham maybe comes back for Seattle, maybe the week after, he's still an upgrade over Christian Ellis. So I think it would be good to get him in here, but I don't think he's any kind of savior if Eagles fans are thinking it that way.
And the interesting thing about it is, and I love to be a fly on the wall, he decided to take the weekend. I thought there was a real good chance he was going to make his call by the middle of last week and get there. Probably not be ready to play on 3, make the call Wednesday, Thursday. You're not going to get him up to speed in 2 days. Only Joshua Dobbs does that. But most football players don't do that. But by taking the weekend, and we're sitting here on Monday, and there may be a decision sometime later today. If there's not, if it drags over to tomorrow, now all of a sudden you're compromising him for this weekend's game. And this weekend's game happens to be the Eagles against the Cowboys. That is a push point. That is something that needs to be decided. And would love to know what the powers that be down in Dallas are saying as far as, yeah, come on, you got to make a call here. What Howie Roseman is saying as far as Shaq Leonard's agent, you got to make a call here. Because, yeah, if money is a factor in this, you don't play the game, you can't get paid. He's going to get a prorated deal from either of the two things. That we can surely agree on. Nobody's giving him a massive year contract. So, Shaq, if you care about the money, you got to make the call, got to spit or get off the pot here, buddy. Got to do something in the next 48 hours.
Yeah, he is. I mean, it's no surprise to the Cowboys and Eagles. As I mentioned last week, he had told Josina Anderson he was going to take his time and make the decision. And he's supposed to make it 24-40. He was going to wait till after the Eagles game, then 24 to 48 hours. So it's coming. And as long as you get into the building by Wednesday on a game day, you're good that week. He's a veteran player. The Eagles have done it before. They did it with Kevin Byard, and he's been playing. So Bradley Roby's another example, but Bradley Roby hadn't been playing, so there was more of a ramp up period. Shaq has been playing,
right?
So he's more in the Byard category. So he'll be ready to go for whatever team he chooses for at least a limited role on Sunday night. The question is, which team is he going to choose? And he's going to be either way. The Eagles are going to see him.
Right, he's going to be in the game in Dallas next Sunday, either in Eagle Green or Cowboy Blue. What would have been a big story here today if the Eagles had found a way to win the game yesterday? Because it would have been just dismissive. Hey, shut up, take that. We're going to go back to your West Coast and whine some more. Wine and cheese, Papa. Didn't happen. But it would have been something to talk about today. Diana Rossini over the weekend reported that her sources were telling her when the NFL competition committee meets after this season that Roger Goodell will be rather outspoken that he wants the tush push eliminated. I usually defend Goodell. I think the commissioners get a bad deal. They got one of the toughest jobs on the planet. very, very well compensated for no pity party, no GoFundMe page. But as far as critique goes, commissioners can never get anything wrong there. They have to be hatchet men for their 32 bosses. So I appreciate the job that they have. I'm not sure why Roger Goodell's taking a hardline stance on this. Doesn't make sense to me. It does seem punitive toward the Philadelphia Eagles. And John, I'm just double checking because you and I have had the same exact read on this throughout. If it comes down that way, if they ban the tush push, it's not the end of the world for the Eagles.
Well, I don't think it's going to matter much at all. I really don't.
Right. The Eagles will still be good on 4th and 1 because Jalen Hurts is that physical a freak. Their offensive line is still going to be that good. You can't tell them they can't block. The only thing you're doing is you tell them Dallas Goedert can't push. And it's not going to stop the Eagles from converting on 4th down. Because it's become so high profile, because it's become so talked about, because it's been so successful there in Philly, you'll lose a little spotlight, a little pub. Who the hell cares if the Eagles still are aggressive and continue to convert on 4th and 1? Who cares how they go about doing it?
I think it's more of a mental thing and that's one of the reasons, when they scored, as I mentioned, and cut the game to 21-13 on the tush push, everybody gets more excited than if it's just a normal sneak. It's turned into this thing, and Eagles fans love it, and they're doing tush pushes at weddings and all that kind of stuff. It's turned into this thing. Does anyone remember how successful the Eagles were with the quarterback sneak with Carson Wentz? Does everybody forget? They were like 35 of 37 because they had a big, powerful quarterback behind a great offensive line, starting with Jason Kelce.
Yep.
This success is nothing new for the Eagles. It is nothing new, and it will not change with Jalen Hurts and his 600-pound squatting ability if they just have to sneak in a conventional fashion. Where I was wrong, and I've been saying this for a long time, it's counterintuitive, Jody, but I said it would be better for the Eagles if they banned the tush push because I thought other teams would get an advantage from it. Hasn't turned out that way. Everybody else who seems to try it does a really poor job with it. But on the other hand, I think that's indicative of it's not really the tush push. It's kind of Jalen Hurts and Jason Kelce in the offensive line. And the lack of success by other teams, it's just window dressing. The Eagles are going to be great at it, whether they ban it or they don't ban it.
Agreed. It's more a Jalen Kelce thing than it is a push from behind thing. All right, we got to take another timeout. Apparently, no Jeff Kerr today. He's having major computer problems. Got to be able to log in to join us. Marcus Hayes is going to join us coming up in less than 20 minutes from now. So keep it here on Birds 365.